Investigation into singer David KT has intensified after the body of a teenager was discovered in a Tesla that has been linked to him. From canceled tours to social media revelations, new developments are raising serious questions about their supposed relationship and the ongoing. David's girlfriend's body turned up inside his Tesla, and at first, people wanted to believe maybe, just maybe, he had nothing to do with it. But then came the bombshell. His driver's license was sitting right there in the car, tying him directly to the crime. So the question everyone's asking is, why would he end her, and how did the truth stay buried for so long? Let's rewind to the moment the block got flipped upside down. September 8th, 2025. Just another Tuesday morning at the Hollywood Toy Yard. Workers were just out there grinding, stacking their bread like always. But what they stumbled on that day, it would scar them forever. That stench creeping through the lot wasn't spoiled takeout or some old gym bag. No, this was the unmistakable smell of end. When the tow crew finally cracked open the front trunk of that abandoned Tesla, what they saw would chill anybody's blood. Inside was a body chopped up and stuffed in a bag like trash nobody wanted. Later, the world would learn the victim was 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Her body was so far gone, so decomposed, that the coroner needed over a week just to ID her using dental records and a small tattoo. That told the streets what many had already whispered. It was Celeste, but here's where the nightmare takes its darkest turn. This wasn't some random Tesla dumped in a lot. This car belonged to David Anthony Burke, better known worldwide as David, the so-called golden boy, just 20 years old, who went from gaming in his mama's basement to becoming a chart-topping superstar with fans eating out the palm of his hand. And now his name wasn't lighting up billboards, it was stamped all over a homicide scene. This dude had the world fooled, posing as some clean-cut church-going artist singing about love and heartbreak. But behind that pretty boy smile, he was hiding some seriously dark secrets. Now let's run this timeline because every piece just gets nastier. The Tesla wasn't just parked up for a couple days. It had been abandoned in the Hollywood Hills for nearly 3 weeks before anybody finally called it in. Neighbors swore the car kept shifting around the block since May, like somebody was playing a twisted game of hide-and-seek with a corpse. By September 5th, the city got tired of the nonstop complaints and had it towed. But it wasn't until 3 days later, when toy yard workers cracked open that trunk, that the horror show finally came to light. And here's the part that'll break your soul. Celeste had just turned 15, literally the day before they found her body. She never even got the chance to blow out her birthday candles. She was just a regular teenage girl rocking Hello Kitty and probably dreaming about escaping the hood, building a future for herself like so many kids her age. Instead, her family had been trapped in a nightmare for over a year. Celeste had gone missing on and off since 2024, with her loved ones filing reports at least 3 times. The last time anybody saw her alive was April 2024, when she was barely 13 or 14. Imagine that. Your baby missing for over a year, only to get that devastating knock at the door. But what sent the streets over the edge wasn't just the crime. It was David's response. His camp pushed out some cold robotic statements saying he'd been informed of what happened and was fully cooperating with cops. Meanwhile, this fool was still on stage the very night after Celeste's body was discovered, grinning, throwing merch into the crowd like he was celebrating. The audacity was insane. And best believe the industry wasn't sticking around to get burned by this scandal. Crocs Hollister gone in a heartbeat. They asked him faster than you can blink. Intercope and their big money partners froze his upcoming album overnight, while other artists like Gucci started scrubbing collabs off the internet like he never existed. When the money dries up that quick, you know something real ugly went down. And don't forget the geography of this whole thing was sketchy too. That Tesla wasn't dumped in some random spot. It got towed from just around the corner from the Hollywood Hills mansion David was chilling in, a house his manager was renting for $20,000 a month. Too close to home to be a coincidence. This wasn't some far-off alley across town. This fool straight up left a body practically in his own backyard and really thought nobody would put 2 and 2 together. Once the body was found, the LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division took charge. But their response? Man, it was crawling slower than a snail in the winter. They kept repeating that David wasn't officially a suspect yet, and that the cause of passing was still deferred and pending more tests. That cautious dance made people furious because, let's be real, this was a wealthy girl from Beverly Hills instead of a brown teenager from the hood. You already know the response would have been very different. Meanwhile, fans were in total shock, trying to process how their so-called squeaky clean idol could be tangled up in something this sick. This was the same dude who preached about faith, chasing dreams, and giving off that good guy vibe like he'd help an old lady across the street. The cognitive dissonance hit hard. How could someone who looks so pure on the outside be tied to something so twisted? But anybody who really understands the streets already knows. Sometimes the most dangerous predators are the ones dressed up like saints. That clean image, pure camouflage. A mask used to slide right past suspicion to get close without raising alarms. The shinier the outside looks, the darker the secrets they might be hiding underneath. Social media blew up instantly. Conspiracies, wild theories, endless debates. But the sharp ones stayed patient, waiting for more evidence. Because when it comes to stories like this, the reality is usually uglier, stranger, and more disturbing than anything you could dream up. What started as a random day at a tow yard had just pulled back the curtain on what looked like years of predatory behavior buried beneath a carefully polished brand. And suddenly, the entire entertainment world was on edge. Everyone knew this wasn't just about David. It was about young stardom itself and the dangers lurking in the shadows of fame. The streets were about to face some hard truths, and this reckoning was only just beginning. With investigators digging deeper, it became clear there wasn't going to be some quick, clean answer. This was the opening act of a story that threatened to expose the rotten underbelly of the music industry and force the world to confront the ugly cost of power, exploitation, and fame in America. The receipts started flying, and the first one had the whole hood buzzing. Celeste's mom spoke out to TMZ and spilled some chilling details. She revealed her baby girl had a distinctive shush tattoo inked on her right index finger, the same exact tattoo found on the remains. But here's where it gets downright eerie. David had that same tattoo in the same spot on his own right index finger. Now, sure, fans summertime escapade their favorite artist's ink. That's nothing new. But given the circumstances, this wasn't just a coincidence. It felt like a warning sign hiding in plain sight. Then came the real gut punch. Celeste's mom revealed her daughter had actually been dating somebody named David before she ever went missing. This wasn't just some fan obsession. This was allegedly a full-on relationship between a grown man and a girl who was still collecting toys and playing with dolls. The timeline of this so-called relationship made people sick to their stomachs. Word on Theblock was David first connected with Celeste when she was around 11 or 12, likely through an online gaming platform like Roblox. One of her former teachers from Lakeland Village Middle School even dropped a TikTok saying Celeste had told classmates she'd met David online and that she'd even run away once to be with him, only for cops to drag her back home. Not long after, in April 2024, she vanished for good. Just pause and think about that power dynamic. When this alleged grooming kicked off, Celeste was still a kid, barely hitting double digits, while David was already a teenager, stacking clout, money, and followers. By 2022, David was 17, maybe 18. While Celeste was just 11 or 12, that ain't just inappropriate. That's straight up criminal. This was behavior that should have landed him behind bars years ago, and the evidence kept piling higher. Online sleuths dug up old screenshots from David's Discord server showing him talking about being in a relationship with someone named Celeste. Some of those conversations dated all the way back to 2022. Even worse, receipts suggested David ordered his moderators to delete traces of their chats, proving he knew exactly what he was doing and that it was wrong. And then came the smoking gun, the photos. Multiple images started circulating online, allegedly showing David and Celeste together. Each picture hit harder than the last, making it harder to deny the disturbing connection between them. Most of the leaked photos showed Celeste with her face hidden or turned away from the camera. And once you realize why, it turns sinister real fast. What grown man needs to cover a young girl's face unless he knows he's doing something that can't see daylight? One shot in particular made people's stomachs drop. It showed David and Celeste in matching outfits, flashing their identical shush tattoos like some twisted version of a couple's photo shoot. And the location ties? Photo shoot. And the location ties? Man, they were suspicious as hell too. Another picture surfaced, placing David in a parking lot just 5 minutes from Celeste's family home in Lake Elsinore, a working-class neighborhood nearly 70 miles away from his luxury LA lifestyle. What business would an industry golden boy have creeping around out there? Unless he was meeting somebody named Celeste. But the most chilling evidence didn't even come from the streets. It came from David's own music. Investigators didn't have to dig far because this dude was basically leaving breadcrumbs in his tracks. An unreleased song called Celeste leaked back in December 2023, with lyrics that made it sound like he knew this girl way too well. Oh, Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest smells her on my clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. That wasn't some random muse. That was specific, personal, and incriminating. And then there was the timing. His breakout single, Romantic Homicide, dropped on September 7th, Celeste's actual birthday. That wasn't just coincidence. It looked like a deliberate move. When people went back and replayed the track with this new context, the lyrics sounded like a full-blown confession. In the back of my mind, you died, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. Fans once thought it was just metaphorical heartbreak, but now it read like he was spelling out exactly what headed. The whispers in the LA music scene made it worse. Multiple insiders came forward, admitting they'd seen David with a girl they assumed was about 19, maybe a college student. They never realized the mystery girl they spotted at parties and events was actually a 13 or 14-year-old middle schooler. That revelation sent chills down spines because it meant this wasn't some hidden fling. People had seen it with their own eyes, and nobody knew the truth until it was too late. Fake IDs were part of the game too, and that's how Celeste was slipping into age-restricted clubs and concerts she never should have been in. This wasn't some accident. This was a whole system designed to keep the abuse rolling in secret. And the more investigators dug, the darker it got. Private eyes working the case started piecing together a chilling theory that Celeste's passing may have come from an overdose. Instead of calling for help, David allegedly panicked and chose to cover it up, even if he didn't hand her the illicit substances himself. Hiding the overdose instead of saving her life would still make him responsible for her passing through straight-up negligence. Security footage added another layer of pain. In March 2024, cameras caught Celeste near a liquor store in Lake Elsinore, one of the very last confirmed sightings of her alive. Then her brother dropped the most devastating detail of all. The final time their family saw her was when she left to see a movie with someone named David. And the car she climbed into that night? The exact same black Tesla where her decomposed body would later be found. By now, the evidence wasn't just stacking. It was pouring in like an avalanche. Matching tattoos, the alleged relationship, the geographic ties, the lyrics that sounded more like confessions than songs, the suspicious timing of his releases, and finally, her body and his ride. Too many pieces of the puzzle lined up, and every one of them pointed back at David. When the feds finally started moving, the streets had already built half the case for them. The evidence pile was so high you could spot it from the moon, and the noise from the community was too loud for law enforcement to ignore any longer. September 17, 2025. That's when LAPD's robbery homicide squad rolled up on the Hollywood Hills mansion where David had been living like a star. This time they weren't playing. They came ready to tear that place apart, flipping the house inside out, hunting for evidence that could finally crack this scandal wide open. that luxury Hollywood Hills mansion. David was flexing and renting for a wild $20,000. A month through, his manager was sitting just blocks away from where his Tesla got dumped. And when cops finally raided the spot, it was no quick sweep. Hours went by as investigators dragged out computers, electronics, and multi-pole bags stuffed with evidence. They even tested the place for traces of blood that could tie the scene directly back to Celeste's unaliving. But the timing of that raid had the hood side-eyeing hard. Think about it. The police had known for more than a week that Celeste's body was waiting in David's car. Yet they still let him keep touring, performing, and possibly destroying evidence. To a lot of people, it looked like celebrity privilege was giving him a head start to cover his tracks. Meanwhile, the community wasn't sitting quiet. In Celeste's hometown of Lake Elsinore, neighbors lit candles and held vigils, demanding justice for the little girls stolen by someone's sick, twisted desires. Social media went into overdrive. #JusticeForCeleste started trending, and people kept pushing info, screenshots, and receipts, making sure the cops couldn't sweep this one under the rug. But here's where it got even more twisted. Instead of tanking his numbers, the scandal made them spike. Streams of romantic homicide shot back up the charts as people replayed the track with fresh ears, dissecting every lyric like it was a confession. That creepy fascination showed just how messy true crime culture can get, sometimes boosting the very person the world should be canceling. Still, David's career was collapsing from every other angle. Festivals like Spilled Milk 2025 dropped him from their lineups without hesitation. His entire U.S. tour got axed. The European dates vanished, and even the Grammy Museum erased his scheduled appearance from their site. In the middle of his biggest scandal ever, the industry started slamming doors shut left and right, and the Golden Boy image was crumbling fast. Even the diehard fans started jumping ship once the evidence stacked to height, though ignore. Streamer Jason the Wee, who had been one of David's loudest defenders on camera, ended up eating his words, retracting his support, and quietly unfollowing David on socials. That move sent a clear signal. The tide was turning and public opinion was collapsing fast. And it wasn't just him. Celebrities, influencers, and industry folks who once smiled in photos with David started mass unfollowing too, cutting ties like their careers depended on it. The pattern was crystal clear. Nobody wanted their name attached to this scandal. Then came the most chilling revelations yet. Interensloits uncovered Discord messages suggesting Celeste may have been pregnant. Screenshots from July 2024 hinted at her expecting with a due date around March 2025. If that was true, it gave David a powerful motive to silence her. A baby would have made their illegal relationship impossible to hide, turning whispers into undeniable proof. The photographic evidence kept snowballing too. More images surfaced, allegedly showing them together in different spots. Sometimes Celeste's face turned away, but her clothes, jewelry, or accessories matching things her family recognized. Security footage and witness statements kept locking them into the same spaces, building a timeline of contact that stretched across years. And then came the smoking gun nobody expected: David's own music. Fans who once praised him for his raw lyrics were now rereading them like a Slayer's diary written in melodies. His 2022 track Decide carried the line, "Save your tears." 6 years. The exact amount of time it would take for an 11-year-old girl to legally become an adult. That wasn't poetry anymore. It was grooming spelled out in plain sight. The unreleased track cell made things worse with graphic lyrics, describing details someone close to Celeste could have known. And the fact it was recorded in 2023, when Celeste was already missing, implied their connection never stopped right up until her end. Even his live shows, once seen as artsy and experimental, took on a bone-chilling new meaning. David was reportedly bringing funeral props on stage, asking fans to write letters to the end. What looked like edgy performance art before now resembled a predator mocking his own crime in front of thousands. By October, Celeste's body was finally released to her grieving family for burial. It closed one heartbreaking chapter, Butte opened another, full of legal battles and haunting questions. Her loved ones set up a GoFundMe just to cover the funeral expenses. Because while the world debated lyrics, timelines, and theories, her family was left with both unbearable grief and the crushing weight of burying their baby girl far too soon. While Fest streets burned with anger, David quietly vanished. He packed up and moved out of his $20,000 a month Hollywood Hills mansion. And just like that, his exact whereabouts became a mystery. Reports claimed he was still cooperating with investigators through his lawyers. But, truth, no arrests had been made, even with a mountain of evidence stacked against him. Legal experts tried to explain the holdup, saying prosecutors were waiting on full autopsy and toxicology results. A process that could drag on for 60 to 120 days. Without those results, they couldn't bring the heaviest homicide charges. But even so, the evidence already on the table screamed exploitation of a minor at the very least. Whether Celeste's life ended in overdose, negligence, or something worse, the picture was clear. This wasn't some tragic accident. What started as a shocking discovery in Addo had spiraled into one of the darkest scandals the entertainment world had ever seen. The puzzle pieces pointed to more than a single crime. They revealed a chilling pattern of grooming, manipulation, and exploitation that had been hiding in plain sight under the polished mask of a rising young star. David's carefully crafted, wholesome, faith-based image crumbled overnight. The Tesla holding Celeste's remains wasn't just a crime scene. It was the nail in the coffin. The final piece proving what many feared. This was years of predatory behavior finally exposed. And while the courts moved slowly, the court of public opinion had already rendered its verdict to the community. There was no more maybe. The evidence wasn't coincidence. It was too specific, too damning, too interconnected. The only question left wasn't if David was involved in Celeste's passing anymore, but how deep that involvement really went at this point. The only question left was what charges would finally stick and what justice would look like for a 15-year-old girl whose life was stolen before it even had the chance to bloom. The streets had already exposed the predator hiding in plain sight, and now all eyes were on the system. Would they step up and do their job, or let this case slide into the shadows like so many others? Celeste's family and the entire community demanded real accountability, not excuses. Thank you for watching. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video so more people know the truth. And don't forget, click one of the boxes on your screen right now to check out more stories just like this. See you on the next one.